Hello, how are we doing? We'll just let some more people come in and we'll just run some audio checks. Okay, we're just running some checks now. If you guys can let me know how my audio is, that'll be great. Oh, you've been in hospital again, Samantha. Saskia's just been in hospital as well. Oh, what are you both like? Imagine if you were in the same ward. Hello, welcome everybody. If you're watching on the replay, big up the replay crew, then thank you for being here. Right, tonight we wasn't going to do a third stream on this subject this week, but we didn't get to finish that documentary. Tonight's going to be a really short one because I haven't done any hedgehogs yet, and they will be here in around an hour, and the little critters will literally be critters out of the movie because they'll be rolling around in their little balls in the garden, screaming blue murder at me because I haven't fed them. And yes, it happens. So I'll be going no later than an hour max, maybe shorter, to go and sort them out. So we're going to finish the documentary. I think we had like 15 minutes left. Then you can allocate for like my pausing and talking. And then I've got a couple of articles to show you. And then that will be it for Madeleine McCann case this week. We will pick it up next week. I will be live again Saturday or Sunday. Where are we now? It'll be probably Saturday or Sunday. I don't think I'll be live tomorrow night. If I am, it will be on my other channel. It won't be on here. So I just want to say as well, before we continue, for those of you that haven't seen my short, we've seen another UFO last night. This is the third, and this was around 3:30 this morning. We were outside with the dogs. Me and my hubby were both up because we were in the garden with the dogs. And we've seen another one, and we both filmed it. He got better footage than me because I was sort of a funny angle. Both of us filmed it. It wasn't the ISS. We've checked ISS. Did you check the coordination for Starlink? No, we'll check Starlink, make sure it wasn't that. We don't know what's going on, but that's 3 in 1 week UFOs. I don't know what they are. I don't know whether they're government drones or something. I don't know what they are. But there's 3 now in the same place, apart from one that was slightly in a different place. So there you go. Saskia's here. She's seen you proof of it. Yeah, I just thought I'd mention it before we continue on this because it's so bizarre. Hi, Lee. Thanks for coming over. Hi, Danny. Blind Cars, could be. Bridget Blaine, watched most of last night's stream earlier. We'll watch the rest tomorrow morning. I'm good, thank you, Bridget. How are you, my darling? Hello. I want to see one. Well, they're on my channel. Penny the Sky by me is full of drones. These aren't drones because they make no noise and they're so high. We thought it was possibly the ISS. I do need to make a full video on them because now I've got quite a bit of footage. I can put it into one and say, like, this is what I've seen today. Anyway, I'm going to move on because we want to finish this documentary. But yeah, I am putting together a video about all of these UFOs. Now, just a quick recap. If anybody missed yesterday's, this is part 2. I live in West Yorkshire, hi Yvonne, and would like to see one. Well, we keep seeing them, and I don't know what they are. How's the audio? Is it okay? Just let me know. How you doing, Yvonne? You okay, my love? Anyway, welcome to the live stream. Regis, you knew. So yesterday, for those of you who didn't see yesterday's live stream, today's won't make sense if you haven't watched part 1. And we were watching the panorama on the 19th of November 2007, and it was actually hi Belinda, darling. Hi, Space Cat. Thank you, guys. And it was at, oh, thank you, Jane. That's really kind. Thank you, darling. Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, hon. So this panorama was done in 2007, hosted by Jeremy Vine, which is just bizarre because it's totally different. And then you've got quite a few reporters involved and journalists. And it's a really, really good piece of journalism. Who here that watched last night was thinking that this was actually really good? Because it was completely, hi Gina, it was completely, hi Blackjack, unbiased. It was looking at every single side. And let's not forget, George is barking, let's not forget as well that at this time, the McCanns, George is barking at something. The McCanns were both aguados, so suspects, as in suspects with evidence as well. Not enough to charge, but quite a lot of evidence. Where over here, a suspect is somebody who has been accused of a crime, but there isn't any evidence yet. They're gathering it. So aguado is a little bit more than what we would have as a suspect in this country. George is going mad at something, don't know what, cat or something. Hi, Danny. So I thought it was really interesting, and there was a lot in there. Yeah, I agree, Gina. Hi, Mr. Steve. This case, I've always felt it was wrong, but what I've been seeing is just insane. Now, the UK has had a complete denotice on it. You're not allowed, if you do talk about it, it's got to be the pro-McCann abduction line. But a few articles I'm going to talk about after that are from, I think it's Norway. Oh, God, George. I don't know what's going on. Every time I go, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? It's getting more and more difficult to live stream these days. I don't know what he's barking at, but I'll need to come and shut the window. He's outside. Just hold on a minute. George, come here then. Come on. He wants to come and just see if I'm okay. Come here then, George. It's okay. You okay? I'm all right. Okay. He's just protecting us, that's all. He's like a toddler. He follows me everywhere. He screams if I go out the house. Oh, no, he was barking at a cat. He's seen a cat. He doesn't like cats. Hi, lovely jubbly. So this was real. This was a real eye-opener. I thought it was really, really interesting. And even when I'm actually am on the phone, it's just ludicrous. Let's just get into this. So we'll go back a little tiny bit because we were sort of at the end and I wasn't really paying enough attention. But yeah, so this panorama, because they were suspects at the time, that no one knew where this was going to go. So I can understand why the BBC were trying to be impartial, because they didn't want to go all pro McCann, only to find out that they were guilty. So they kind of played it so they covered every base, so they couldn't be accused of being either way. I think everybody knew at this time that McCanns were guilty. In Portugal, it was just common knowledge. None of the locals believed them. They actually started taking down the yellow ribbons that they were putting up for Madeleine, because they knew that she was dead and they knew the parents were guilty. But last night I did find out a few other things that were really bizarre, but we're going to talk about that after. So we're going to watch the rest of Panorama, and then I'm going to talk about some articles I've found, and then we're going to end it, and then we'll do another stream another night. There will be more next week though on the McCanns, because there's still so much stuff. And I also want to do this podcast party where we do a listening. We listen in to the podcast that 9 Australia did, and it is so interesting, the things that they talk about on there. So if you're just joining us, this is Kate's mum. Okay, and I like the way they have this in the background to make it's all strategically placed, so she looks like this caring little grandma. but she's also acting dodgy. Last night we were watching this documentary and there was a bold guy called John Corner. He's also very dodgy, in my opinion. And the research I was doing was quite interesting on him. So I do think that next week we need to do a show looking into this guy. Again, it's all allegedly, it's all speculation. But if you're going to be on the TV, then you're going to have to be scrutinised. He wants to go on a documentary and talk about stuff and be involved in the McCanns, then people are going to want to question you, aren't they? Anyway, so I've gone back a few minutes and we're going to carry on.
And he was in the interview and he didn't make eye contact with Kate at all.
Right, I don't know what she's on about. Let me just come back a little bit.
Now, but didn't know then, is that was precisely the time when the McCanns first experienced a more aggressive attitude from Portuguese police. At an informal briefing, 2 detectives turned on Kate McCann. She was on her own. Jerry McCann wasn't with her, but her version of events was openly questioned.
I do know afterwards she was incredibly upset, and that was the start of a very difficult period. And I, really felt for them actually, because they went through a very tough time.
And by now, the forensic work is shaping the case. The police doubts are more serious. On Thursday, the 6th of September, Kate McCann is dropped off in Portimao. She's been called in for questioning. Her sister-in-law, Trish, goes to support her. Justine McGuinness, the McCann publicity manager at the time, is also there.
Okay, so this is when she's coming. We've gone back a little bit. So this is Kate in Portugal. I think this was around the August, September time, and they've called her back. Just a couple of other people that have come in since we've gone live. We've got Pauline. Hello, Pauline, my lovely. And Tamsin is here. I think Lovely Jubbly was already here. Candice as well. So, and Belinda is back properly. This is really, really good. Thank you so much. And thank you for the likers as well. It does really help. How you doing, Space Cat, my love? Yeah, the hamsters, we've got to go and sort them out shortly. The spiky hamsters, Al calls them. So this is when Kate is about to be questioned again.
On Thursday, the 6th of September, Kate McCann is dropped off in Portimao. She's been called in for questioning. Her sister-in-law, Trish, goes to support her.
Sister-in-law, is that not that fat bird? Is that another one? You know, the one that was always... how you doing, Mr. Steve? You know, the one that was gobby. That's not her? Or is it her? Is it her? She's the one that... Yes, she's the one that kept letting things out all the time, isn't she? About saying that Kate was offered a plea deal and all this stuff. I don't know. I think the police know that she's the weakest point, that Jerry is the one that is pulling all the strings here. And I just want to add as well, I know we've not finished this yet, but my initial thought was them two are guilty, and it hasn't changed. I'd like to know if anybody, let me know in the chat, has anybody else's position changed? Has anybody else's position changed on this? Do you still think that these pair are guilty, or did you always think they were innocent and now you think they're guilty from all of the evidence against them? If this was a court of law, it goes by not public opinion, it goes by fact. It goes not by media spin and governments getting involved. It goes by fact and evidence. And if these two went before a court, there is way too much evidence against them, down to the blood on her clothes, not just in the hire car, not just in the apartment, on her clothes, and the smell of death. How can a dog pick up a smell of death on her clothes, of a human death? But that's ignored. That is the position that we're in now. It's insane.
Dean McGuinness, the McCann publicity manager at the time, is also there.
I have to say, I was incredibly impressed because she just held her head high and walked into the police station and just kept on going. And a lot of people wouldn't have been able to have coped going through a media mob.
As
A
Kate
lot of
McCann
people
sits
wouldn't have
down,
been able to have cope going through a media mob. These are people that are all over the news, that love their media attention, that contacted Sky News, people say, at 10:30 on the night of the alleged abduction, before the police were called at 10:40. They were on the phone to Sky News. Make that make sense. And yet they complain when there's media taking pictures of them.
in the interview room, she recognises one of the
Hi, I'm
detectives.
City Farm.
They'd had a meal with this guy, with his family, and the children had played together. And she talked to me about this particular police officer as if he was a friend. And she felt quite comforted by having this guy who spoke English as well. And he was in the interview, and he didn't make eye contact with Kate at all.
Kate McCann is at the station for 13 hours, but from inside she and Trish text out updates. Even at this point, the message is being controlled.
We were a bit naughty because we did have messages coming
Terrible.
out of the police station,
Bit
which we
naughty.
weren't supposed to.
Well, the text messages.
Yeah.
And what the text saying? Talk us through.
Sort of updates on things that were happening.
Did you hear what he just said then? Even at this stage, the message was being controlled. Did you hear that? Even back then, the message was being controlled. This panorama is gone. I didn't get a strike. I didn't get a copyright claim. The only thing they didn't like was the music, and I've currently editing that out from last night. Some of the music in there, but the actual panorama, trust me, if the BBC still had this on their website or on their YouTube channel, I wouldn't have got a strike, I don't think, but I would have got a copyright claim where they let you use it without monetization, or they just say, look, you can't use it, but we're not going to strike it. Or they may have struck me. But usually I play like 30 seconds of anything from the BBC, and I'm in, YouTube are like, oh, this has been picked up. Nothing. Because the BBC scrubbed this episode of Panorama. Why? And thank God somebody recorded it. I found a really interesting article last night that was even shocked me with some of the people that are involved in this. But I'll talk about that after. But there's your proof that the BBC were actually doing some real journalism and deleted it. It's madness. So she's just admitted that she's controlling the narrative for them. She's one of these PR people. She'd taken over from Clarence Mitchell, who had briefly left, but he comes back. Once they get named Aguados, they sack this bird and get him back because they're like, she's not good enough. We need this other guy. But this was only 5 months after Madeleine went missing, to sit there on TV and say, we broke the rules, we broke the law, we were texting each other while she was being questioned, and you are arrested when you're about to be questioned. You're arrested and you're being told everything you say may be given in evidence. That's what they say. So you're not supposed to have your phone whilst you're being questioned by the police. And you're certainly not supposed to be texting people updates. And they have just admitted there that that's what they were doing. And the narrator says that they were controlling the narrative at this stage. High tone. Let's just listen to that again.
And she felt quite comforted by having this guy who spoke English as well. And he was in the interview, and he He didn't make eye contact with Kate at all.
Kate McCann is at the station for 13 hours, but from inside she and Trish text out updates. Even at this point, the message is being controlled.
We were a bit naughty because we did have messages coming out of the police station, which we weren't supposed to.
What, the text messages?
Yeah.
And what the text saying? Talk us through.
You know, sort of updates on things that were happening.
I'd like to read a statement on Kate's arrival at the police station.
Knowing, you know, everybody had copy to write, had the 10 o'clock news like you did, or whatever, the various different deadlines that they had. I felt that it was important just to manage people's expectations.
She finally gets out at 1 o'clock in the morning. Her lawyer tells family and friends what has been put to her by the police.
Kate foi ouvida como testemunha. As diligências de investigação, obviamente, vão continuar a decorrer e, como bem sabem, o segredo de justiça impõe-no que nada mais digamos.
I mean, there was an allegation put to.
Hold on 1 sec. I won't be 1 sec. I've just got to mute my microphone. George is proper on one. I've just asked Al to go and let Oscar out because Oscar wants to come out. Yeah, so can you believe what we're listening to? It's a little bit naughty. Can you let Oscar out? Oscar, George is going nuts. He wants his mummy outside. He's going to keep barking at everything until he gets his mummy outside. I just find this absolutely unbelievable. A little bit naughty. And remember, the little girl is supposed to be missing during all this. She's supposed to be abducted by a pedo. You know? You couldn't make this up. She's supposed to have been abducted. Oh, George. This is now you can see why I go later. Early is worse. Honestly, this is actually worse going earlier. Now you see why. Right, okay.
Put to Kate that she'd been involved in harming her daughter. You know, dreadful allegation to be put to any mother.
Shut up.
At 3 in the morning,
She's
after Kate
lying.
McCann has
She's
returned.
lying.
The various different deadlines that they had. I felt that it was important just to manage people's expectations.
What?
She finally gets out at
Manage people's expectations. How many people have a PR firm or people working for the British government come in and do this for them? And again, there's supposed to be a little girl taken by pedos. Remember, they said them. You know, could be held captive or whatever. And they're insistent that Madeleine's alive. Why? Why are they so obsessed with her being alive? How do they know? That's because they know she's not. That's why. I just find this flabbergasting. And the way they're going on, it's all about defending the McCanns and poor McCanns, the victims. It's never about Madeleine. And that shot with him hunched over the laptop saying he was looking for Madeleine on the internet was just absolutely ludicrous. These people are so detached from reality.
At 1 o'clock in the morning, her lawyer tells family and friends what has been put to her by the police.
Kate foi ouvida como testemunha. As diligências de investigação, obviamente, vão continuar a decorrer e, como bem sabem, o segredo de justiça impõe-no que nada mais digamos.
I mean, there was an allegation put to Kate that she'd been involved in harming her daughter. You know, dreadful allegation to be put to any mother.
At 3 in the
Not a
morning,
mother that's
after
done
Kate
it, though.
McCann has returned to her villa, her lawyer arrives with what seems to be a deal. Plead guilty to manslaughter.
Let's not forget that her lawyer was an expert in defending wrong'uns. Her lawyer, we covered this in the first episode of this podcast, her lawyer had defended Premier League footballers when they'd been naughty and defended paedophiles and successfully gotten serious wrong'uns out of prison. Why would they need a lawyer like that? You couldn't make it up. It's not normal behaviour, is it? If you've done nothing wrong, then you're not bothered. You know you've done nothing wrong. It's not even like they're in some sort of like Turkish jail or, you know, one of these other, like a Muslim country. You know, they're in the EU. The UK was part of the EU then. So they're not like in some like really scary like Thai prison or something. They're within the EU. So it's not like they're desperate for this super lawyer to help them. It's just so dodgy.
And escape with only 2 years in jail. As he explains the offer, Philomena McCann is on the phone to her sister Trish.
Trisha hands out with the mobile.
Oh, this is the wrong,
and
right.
there I
So this is Philomena. This is that big one who's always, you know, opens a gob too quickly and actually got told off by Clarence Mitchell for being too gobby and aggressive. So Trish is the other sister then. So there's two of Jerry's sisters. So Jerry's got a brother who looks like a clear wrong'un who he needs a background check on. Can somebody remind me of his name, please? The brother. Ellie, I've seen you here. Hello, my lovely. Hello, English Buttercup. I always call you the wrong name, but it's just there now. Ellie, if you've got anything on the brother, would you email it me, please? Because I'm screaming. It's something screaming check hard drive on that one. Yeah, the brother. John. Hi, Tamsin. Was it John? Okay, thank you very much, John McCann. I'll do some research. Thank you, Ellie. Ellie's been really helpful as well, so thank you, my love.
I am listening to Kate screaming at the lawyer, no, and just the emotion and the disgust, her tone, everything that was being conveyed. I mean, what she was saying, the anger, you could feel it.
This was a turning point. A dramatic 48 hours.
So I know I keep pausing it, but can just say this as well. What I was reading this morning, hi Mama Bear, what I was reading this morning as well in this article was that when we were in this situation, 7th of September 2007, the Portuguese police were about to charge, right? All of the talk coming from the forensic science lab in Birmingham were that they had them. Now, I don't know if I told you this last week, but I was reading that the British media were being briefed. They were being briefed that this was a bombshell. Now, at this point, the McCanns of Gordon Brown's took over. I think it was in the June. He's all over them, and his brother's best mates with one of the tapas. I think it's Fiona. Okay. They've been to see the Pope. The Pope's all over them. You've got all of these people, which we're going to tell you in a moment, have donated to their cause. I say that very loosely. Okay. They were about to get charged, and the British government were actually briefing the UK British media on this massive turn of events, and that they were gearing up. The British papers were gearing up for this to come out, but they were trying to spin it so that they knew all along, really, because the media was sort of still airing towards supporting the McCanns. They were not at first, they weren't, but after a couple of months with our government involvement, the media were a lot more careful. but not like they are today. That's completely out of hand. And the media was starting to like put bits out like, this is coming any day now, this is coming. And it was about to go, they were about to charge. It's why they arrested them. And then all of a sudden, the markers were not quite enough in the DNA. It is so dodgy. That was something happened at that lab, and it's now been closed down. Where is that DNA taken from the car and her clothes and under the tiles in the villa is my question. Why won't anyone hand it over to the US, to the guys in the US who can say definitively yes or no, this is whatever blood and this is Madeleine McCann's blood? Because if it is, it changes the whole thing. So George don't like them kids. Remember them kids that shouted at Dandelion? They've just walked past. Yeah, he'll have you, little shits.
First, they're named as official suspects.
Kate and Jerry McCann, they have both been today declared acquitted with no bail conditions.
Then they decide the time has come to leave Pride Luge, to go home.
They said they weren't leaving. We are not going home without Maddie. We will never leave. We've been named Aguados, so we're off. Again, they're not in some Thai bloody country or some dodgy foreign country where we don't really have much say. We're in an EU country in, Portugal, that there's no reason, there are no bail conditions. The Portuguese police really cocked up there. They should have said they couldn't leave the country. But the Portuguese police at this point genuinely believed that the British were working with them and that this lab was going to come out and say it was Madeleine's blood. But they didn't. They said they couldn't say for definite.
Without Madeleine. Few are putting up yellow ribbons now. It's a case that divides people. Those who think that somehow the McCanns are involved and those who don't, including a small number of wealthy supporters who appoint a legal coordinator.
What happened then?
It was quite clear when Kate and Jerry came back to the UK that they were subject to an open season of abuse in the media. They'd obviously gone through the tragedy of having the daughter taken in very unfortunate circumstances. And to make matters infinitely worse, we're now subject...
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Are you getting really bad audio interference, or is it just my laptop?
Few are putting up yellow ribbons now. It's a case...
Anybody else getting that? Hi, Lottie.
that divides people. Those who think
Anybody else got that? I think it's them, not us.
Somehow the McCanns are involved, and those who don't, including a small number of wealthy supporters who appoint a legal coordinator.
See? Wealthy supporters. Wealthy supporters. Yeah, I think it's them. Oh, okay. Thank you, English Buttercup. Wealthy supporters. Do you know who one of them was? Just one, I'll tell you. Richard Branson. He was one of them.
Jerry came back to the UK that they were subject to an open season of abuse in the media. They'd obviously gone through the tragedy of having the daughter taken in very unfortunate circumstances.
It's people asking real questions.
Worse, we're now subject to a trial by media.
Wrong.
So, what exactly is the case against the McCanns? Well, some of it is tenuous, to put it mildly, and to disentangle from wild press speculation.
It was widely reported, for example, that the body was shifted in the back of this vehicle, a Renault Scenic the McCanns hired 25 days after Madeleine disappeared. The story goes that they drove the car to Huelva in Spain on the 3rd of August, where they disposed of the body.
Okay, they don't tell you that now, do they? That was the story at the time. Okay, 3rd of August, which was what, 3 months, May, June, July, 3 months later they disposed of the body. I don't know whether this says it now because I can't remember, but there was a lot of mileage on that car that were not accounted for. And it's just said the story goes. So again, you wouldn't hear this now. You just wouldn't hear this now.
According to the McCanns, these pictures show the only trip they made to Huelva.
Oh, look, it's them again with that bloke. Like, what is with that weird, creepy bloke, that John Corner, taking a video camera to make this vlog? Like, what the hell? And they only allow Panorama to see a little bit of it because it leaked that he was doing it. And he was going around in the back of their car filming them. And he's even filmed the one time they reckon they went to this place. Why haven't police dug up this place where people think that she was? But apparently it was near the coast and they think that they might have dumped her in the sea. But this is so dodgy. This is so dodgy. And again, there's a little child somewhere being tortured, according to them, you know, by a really baddie man. You just wouldn't be thinking about video vlogs and libel and press officers and all this other shizness. You just would care about the child. They just don't seem to give a shit. And that's why I don't care what anyone says. I don't think this was accidental. These are sociopaths. These are cold, calculated, unemotional sociopaths, in my opinion. If it was an accident, you'd be tearful. You'd have regret. You wouldn't be acting like this. It's far more sinister than an accident, in my opinion.
Truly bizarre. I mean, we use it as a base for the crew.
So that effectively is evidence, isn't it?
You can hear him in the background
trip
talking.
to Spain, when, if reports are to be believed, in the back of that vehicle is the body of Madeleine McCann.
And he was there.
In the back of that vehicle was a lot.
There you go. On the 3rd of August, he was there. Baldy, John Corner, the weirdo. He was there with them. That's interesting, isn't it? And they've even recorded it. Probably for some weird snuff film they're making. This wouldn't surprise me if they wasn't making this for some weird fetish or, you know, their mates. And it leaked out, so they had to admit to this weird like Blair Witch type thing where they're filming each other. And they're proving, we've only ever made one journey. Here's the video of it. Like, what? Why would you do that? Is anybody else really struggling with this? I think it's bloody weird. Welcome everyone that's still here. Yeah, you wouldn't, Jane. You wouldn't be able to function because they were hoping it was going to die down. Lovely jubbly, in my opinion. And apparently, and I haven't got any proof for this yet, and I will find it if it exists. They replaced, and I think it might be in the PJ files, that Jerry replaced the freezer, or was it the fridge or the freezer in the apartment. Now, if your freezer broke on holiday in the apartment, what would you do? Would you go out and buy a new one for a holiday apartment? Or would you go to the desk and say, my fridge or my freezer's broke? Because they apparently, I haven't seen evidence yet and I need to, apparently bought a brand new freezer and put it in the apartment, or fridge or maybe it was a fridge freezer. Why would you do that? Unless they put Madeleine in it, her body, and then replaced it. It's so wrong. We did, didn't we, Lotte? I'm sorry. I think if you messaged me, I don't see my messenger very often. So if you've messaged me, I do check in. Hi Hoppers, how you doing, my friend? Hi Carlos. Welcoming everybody. Please hit the like, guys. It really helps the algorithms, if you don't mind. So you've got the fridge and the freezer situation. which is another thing that makes no sense. Anyway, so here we go. They've got their alibi because this bold, creepy guy was filming them on the 3rd, or whenever it was this is supposed to have been filmed. It's awful, isn't it, Space Cat, my love? I'm hoping tonight I can hand feed the hedgehog again. I've got to get out there soon. I'm not fed them yet.
There's a lot of posters of Madeleine and me and my cameraman. It's quite sickening, really, the speculation around what was a genuine trip out to Spain to try and raise public awareness about Madeleine.
They went over to Spain, so they think the body was dumped in Spain. Interesting. Go across the border where the PJ have got no jurisdiction. I bet you there's a few friends over in Spain. You couldn't make this shit up, folks. You really couldn't. And he's got his cameraman with him. Why would you do that? Is anybody else really just think this is just getting worse and worse and worse? Oh, come on.
This is a couple who are desperately looking for their missing daughter. The thought of them having Madeleine in the car is just obscene.
Why do they need to have a cameraman filming them do this? If you genuinely were looking for your child, why would you want a film producer and his cameraman following you around, filming it so you can prove, I did look, I put posters up 3 months later? You couldn't make this shit up. This is so dodgy. It does, Saskia. I agree with that. It gets worse the more we dig. I didn't think this could get any worse. But every single time I do a show on it, because I'm uncovering a lot with you. I watched this, but I missed this bit. You know, I watched it when I was half asleep the other morning when I was up with George. And I don't remember this bit. This is just so bizarre.
We're told the police do remain interested in this car. One source says it's a mystery why the vehicle does so many miles when Kate and Jerry McCann have left it behind on trips across Europe. There is a new man in charge of the case, and they say everything's being reassessed, and the speculation and police leaks do seem much reduced.
Did you hear that? The car's done too many miles. And it's got no explanation for why would there's nobody they're not answering these basic questions. It's done thousands and thousands of miles more than it should have. If you've got a hire car and you bring it back and you've done over what they allow, like they allow 5,000 in like a month and you've done 20,000, they're going to ask you, why is there more on the clock? Why has nobody just literally said to him, why, go on, explain this? When you took the car out, the mileage was noted. When you bought the car back, mileage was noted. Where have you been in this car? Why no one's answered that question. The police should have put a tracker on it. They really should have. The police could have put a tracker on it at any point. It's ridiculous.
We've had access to a thorough briefing from a source close to the top of the Policia Judiciaria. He tells us that two very different scenarios are now being tested. One, that Madeleine was abducted as her parents believe, or that she died in apartment 5A as a result of an accident and that her death was covered up. And that second theory asks serious questions of the McCanns and their friends. So let's have a closer look at some of those police suspicions. Now, a senior detective has told us that the friends are everything, that there are inconsistencies in their statements, that they might be hiding something. Specifically, the police thought seems to be that with the statements as they stand, that night seems so busy, it's hard to see a predatory paedophile taking the risk. Officially, the PJ can't talk about this case, but close to the investigation is a PJ detective who also heads the organisation representing Portuguese detectives.
O que se passou naquela noite num jantar, no final de jantar.
What happened that night in the dinner,
What's going on?
at the end of the
Don't
dinner in the
block.
tapas bar, and everything that happened that night, what was said between
Please
those
don't
people,
block.
it leaves us somewhat perplexed in the way, as I've been saying since the beginning, that not all their statements match up exactly with each other.
You unblocked, Louis. You shouldn't have been blocked.
There are some things where between what one says and what the other says, they don't match up with each other.
I don't know what Sparkle Soul. Why did you block Louis? Oh, okay, it was an accident. It's fine. You're all right, Louis. You're okay. You're back.
Well, if you ask 9 people,
she's still
about
laughing.
the events of
Look,
a
she's still laughing.
night, you're probably going to get 9 slightly different stories, and
No,
you're
you're
not
not.
clock watching. You're not, you know.
Is this a joke, right? If you ask 9 people, you're going to get slightly different stories. What? No, you don't. That's not true. If you're all telling the truth and it's a child missing, you are not going to get different stories. I can't believe that she's actually smiling. The arrogance on this woman. Anybody else want to just knock this woman out? Because I do.
We were having a meal. You're not.
Jane Tanner is the only one of the group of friends who has agreed to speak to us. She denies recent reports that both she and her partner want to change their witness statements.
I know that you've not spoken to the media before, and yet you've been, much discussed. Why have you chosen to speak
Because
now?
we were, I've not spoken because the Portuguese police told us not to talk about the case at all. And, from day one, we've done everything we can to help them with the investigation. I think maybe I'm talking now because I'm being called a liar and fantasist and all this. And I know what I saw, and I think it's important that people know what I saw, because
she's changed a witness statement and she is a liar and she's been called a liar, and this is how she redeems herself, by sat there smirking, saying I'm redeeming myself. What? This is ridiculous. How are you, Lottie? Your caravan's by me, isn't it, love? Where is it again? Is it Malton?
I believe Madeleine was abducted.
One reason why the police may doubt the consistency and the honesty of some of the witnesses relates to the first man to be declared arguido, Robert Murat. In July, here at Portimao PJ headquarters, Robert Murat came face to face with these 3 people. Russell O'Brien, Rachel Oldfield and Fiona Payne, all part of the McCann holiday group, invited to read out their statements one by one.
Now, this is so dodgy. Now, do you remember this guy? Now, he was initially called, he was an Aguado. But if you remember, he lived locally. He had dual citizenship. He had Portuguese and British citizenship. He lived with his mom, and his mom was English. And because he was bilingual, he could speak both languages. He immediately, within a couple of days, offered his services to the police to help translate. Now, they found that in the past, that when there's someone like, for example, Ian Huntley, do you remember he was all over the police? Let me help, getting on camera all the time. And it was him. Same with the Chris Watts case, all over the camera, want to help. They find that these sort of people want to help, inverted commas. And it was the media, it was the British media that actually went to the police about him and said, this guy's creepy. He keeps coming up to us and asking us if he can help them with any sort of translation or anything like that, or showing around. And here he meets 3 of the tapas 7, and he's helping them translate their statements. So, and then he gets called a suspect after he's been with them. Now, many people have told me they think that he was involved, but with them. As part of their group, he helped them because apparently he knew Jerry. It's so bizarre. But why is he so involved?
They all said they'd seen Robert Murat in and around the Ocean Club on the night Madeleine disappeared. He denied it then, and he denies it now.
Robert is sticking to his guns. He was not there on that night. There is not a shred of evidence.
You're very welcome, Amethyst. This is Robert Murat's auntie. I think this is his mom. Now, these two are calling the McCanns liars. So either Robert Murat is completely innocent and he was trying to help out and he's been a scapegoat, or he did help them, but they did it, but they want to push it onto him, therefore still a scapegoat. I think if he was involved, it was a very small part, because all of the tapas 7, tapas 9, whatever you want to call them, they all suddenly seen a man matching Robert's description that night. It's so dodgy, but his family are not happy.
It's against him being there on that night. So, you know, that question definitely needs to be answered. Why are they putting a finger at Robert?
He's been told not to speak to the media, but he wants his views to be heard. As I interviewed his mother and aunt, he sat in on the interview. What do you think, Jenny?
I just don't understand why they're lying. Well, on May the 3rd, I've been out on taking the dogs out, which I do every single night of my life. And I got home about 8 o'clock. And Robert was already there. And he was in all the evening.
How are you so sure?
Because we were sitting in the kitchen talking the whole evening.
And you would have known if Robert had gone out?
Yes, I definitely would have known if he'd gone out.
Robert Murat was questioned for 3 days, and he remains an arguido. Our access to police briefings points to another area of concern, Kate McCann's journal.
Kate was very distressed, obviously. Every evening, people were having to kind of hold her together, you know, because as bedtime came, it was another day gone and they didn't have Madeleine back. And so she needed support at that time of the night. And I think it was during that time that Philomena suggested, Kate, why don't you start to keep a journal? And then when Madeleine comes back, you can let Madeleine read it.
What?
O diário de Kate McCann.
When your 4-year-old comes back, she can read all the dark thoughts that she wrote in her journal. What?
Será tão importante.
Kate McCann's diary will be as important to the investigation as is all the small evidence that has been found throughout the whole course of investigation. Not more, not less. By combining all of the evidence, we will be able to reconstruct what happened that moment, that evening.
Em que ocorreu o facto que está em investigação.
Hi, Elaine, I agree.
There were newspaper claims that Kate McCann had described Madeleine as hyperactive, but we can almost certainly dismiss these. Even the Portuguese Attorney General says that those claims are untrue. Nonetheless, we have been told by detectives that the journal remains of interest. Now, point 3 for the police, the DNA.
Right, just before we get to DNA, do you know that the Portuguese police actually travelled to England to re-interview them in the November, and they went to get the journal, but the British stopped them getting it. They also wouldn't allow the British wouldn't allow the Portuguese police to interview the McCanns back in the UK. They allowed them to sit in without speaking, and they wouldn't allow the journal, but they did manage to photocopy a few pages. It's so dodgy. There's nothing to hide. Why would you keep your journal? What's the problem? If you've done nothing wrong, why would you stop the police from getting it? It's so dodgy, this.
As it stands, the full DNA evidence that is being assessed in Birmingham is still not back in Portugal. We understand evidence has been recovered from the underside of the carpet lining in the boot of that Scenic. Fluid and hair from a corpse, not necessarily human, and a separate DNA sample that's a partial match from Madeleine and comes from a primary source. Our senior Portuguese contact has said the partial results that have been sent are inconclusive and that he doesn't expect the full set will ever be enough on its own to bring a case. A view shared by those familiar with the investigation.
What did come to Portugal were not conclusive results, but rather said to be indicative. Also, the results from some of the tests are still missing. And these are once again not conclusive results, but rather indicative. To be able to say with certainty that Maddie was there, or that this DNA was Maddie's, the test results would have to be 99% positive. If they are not 99% certain, it can be viewed as indicative, but not conclusive. And if it is not conclusive, the police or the courts should not make any statements at the moment, because they could be wrong.
The McCann's legal team has told us the results of its own tests on the car, conducted by experts, which reveal, they say, nothing incriminating. Our police sources say they have other evidence, which the media knows nothing about. But much of what the police have said and have leaked only points to suspicion.
Just to answer Terry Knowles Band again, shouldn't GB News or Talk TV look at this again? No, they're all part of the establishment. Esther McVeigh, who used to be on GB News quite a lot, and she was on Talk TV 2 days ago, she grew up with Kate, she went to school with Kate, and she has been behind getting funding for Kate. She is knee-deep in this shit. All of them, whether they believe this story or not, will all go with the line. Everybody in the UK, unless you are alternative media, will tell you that Madeleine was abducted, the parents are innocent, and that she's still missing. The only people that are calling this out are people like us, people who don't have, a big channel or, a big following, like the way that like Talk TV have got so many million subscribers. Anyone like that, nope, they won't touch this. They will not touch this. Ofcom would just shut GB News down. And Talk TV, well, the government would shut them down. This goes so high, really, really high. It's like the Eggstein files we'll be talking about on the next show. Trump was all for that until he got in. He was all for it. He wanted them out there. He got in and he was told from whoever's above the US president, nah, it's not getting out. And then he's like, oh, no, well, let's move on. Let's move on to the floods in Texas, is what he said yesterday. It's the same thing here. GB News, Talk TV, they're not going to touch this. They're not real journalists. They're trying. They're better than the BBC and whatnot, but they're never going to touch this. They're just not going to happen. There's certain things that are a big no-no, and this is one of them.
About the abduction theory. So, the police say they have no alternative but to continue to investigate the chronology of the events of the night of May the 3rd. Well, let's have a look at the timeline again. The police say there are inconsistencies in the McCann party's version of events. So does the alternative theory that some or all were involved hold any more water? Remember, the McCanns say they picked up their children from the kids' clubs and returned with them to their apartment. At 6, Jerry McCann left for a tennis lesson. Kate McCann stayed indoors with the children. And it's claimed that David Payne looked in at 6:30 and confirmed they were okay.
He didn't look in. This is David Payne. He didn't look in at all. He went and visited Kate and Madeleine, not Jerry, his mate, who was playing tennis with Jeremy. He went and helped bath Madeleine at 6:30 that night, apparently. It's not even his own daughter, 3-year-old.
Jerry McCann finished tennis and joined them from 7 to 8:30. If they were solely responsible for something that happened in that flat, that would leave them little more than an hour to clear up and move Madeleine's body.
What happened the day before?
Now,
what
if something happened when Jerry McCann came back to the flat at just after 9 p.m. to check on the children, as he said he...
Well, they're believing David Payne. They're saying, oh, it only left them an hour to kill her and then clean it up. They're going by David Payne's testimony. David Payne, who's had complaints about him from a previous holiday where he was talking about doing disgusting things to Madeleine. If you haven't seen that episode, it was very distressing. I can't remember what number it was. When I've done all this, I'll number them all so people can find them easier. Excuse me, but that one was even worse. That was the worst one. That's why I needed a bit of a break. That was horrific, what that guy was saying. And these were all in a witness statement that never got sent to the Portuguese police until after October, when they got rid of that. You know, people keep saying the disgraced Gonzalo Amaral, whatever his name is. He wasn't disgraced. The police removed him from this case at the request of the British government, and then he quit. He quit. He says, "Right, you're all dodgy. I'm off." He wasn't disgraced at all. That's not true. They wanted him off the case because he was too close to it. That's why.
He did. Well, that would leave him with even less time. Now, what if there was a third person involved? If that's true, and some detectives think it might be, then it gets more complicated, because this person would be able to move the body anytime up until 10 o'clock, when we know the alarm was raised. Those are the theories. But the reality is, we would have to accept that Kate and Jerry McCann, having just been involved in the death of their daughter, then got ready for a night out, were first at the table, and then had a meal with friends as if nothing had happened.
As late as last week, a senior officer was still saying that it's possible the McCanns could have masked their feelings when they were at that meal.
If Madeleine had an accident in Kate's presence, Kate is a doctor, for goodness sake. They were on holiday with doctors. The first thing she would have done would have been to have sought help for Madeleine. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous to think that Kate would do anything else.
In the footage provided to us by John Corner, he revisits the apartment, for some of the time accompanied off camera by Jerry McCann.
Uncle Fester's
He
here.
tests how easy it would have been for an abductor to get in and out with Madeleine.
Okay, we're sitting at the table. We're sitting at the very table. We can still see the apartment quite clearly. We've got a good line of sight.
We were looking at the back of the apartment, and maybe the weak spots were at the front, and it's very, you know, corner flat with trees overlooking it. Somebody could be hiding there or watching out of view.
So you can see Jerry coming out the gate, and you can see them sitting in the tapas bar.
They've been watching us over a matter of days, I'm sure. You know, they know, you know, they must have known, you know, that
Who's
Jerry had
they?
just been into the apartment. And then, you're right, there was only a small window of opportunity, but, you know.
There was less of a window of opportunity for some random person to take her than it is for you to have bumped her off. There was a good hour for you to have bumped her off, if David Payne was telling the truth, which I don't believe he was. He was part of it all, he was. He's a wrong-un, in my opinion. And I'm going by the witness statements that were never followed up. Never followed up. And some of the things that he's been accused of, and that was by a couple that knew Jerry and Kate and agreed to go on holiday with them and only them the year before, in the September 2006. But they were totally freaked out by this David Payne guy, because he was talking about how he wanted to do things to Madeleine and showing how he would do them. And Jerry was sat there laughing. That is a statement from another, I think she's another doctor or medical type person, who wished she'd never gone on holiday with the McCanns, because they didn't know that this creepy guy was part of it. And literally days after Madeleine went missing, this woman went to the police in the UK and said, well, if this little girl's missing, you need to know that one of the men, David Payne, Dr. David Payne, who's with them, was saying he wanted to do rude things to Madeleine. And the British police never sent that statement from that lady to Portuguese police until the October. If that would have gone straight through, which it should have, they would have questioned him and kept him from going back. So they keep blaming, the British keep blaming the Portuguese. They need to start looking closer to home because they cocked this case up, I believe, on purpose. Hedgehogs are due. I need to go in a sec.
Let's go back to that moment. At about 9:15, Jerry McCann says he's just left the flat. He's still in the street talking to a friend when Jane Tanner walks past him on the other side of the road up the hill and sees what she now believes to be Madeleine. So at most, a window of 5 minutes for someone to get in. The alternative view, which Jerry McCann says was put to him by the police, is that the abductor was already in the flat hiding when Jerry McCann did his checks.
Just even standing here now, I think it's quite creepy because you could just be standing here just chilling out, couldn't you? Just
You could have been down there.
Do you reckon? So how long would it take us to get across there? 20 seconds?
20 seconds, 10, 15.
Yeah.
Open the window, in, out.
John and camera operator. Who that is.
Under a minute.
There was a window of opportunity. And that's the regret that we'll always have. A window of opportunity to snatch a child. And I've no doubt that Madeleine was targeted. And that makes us, sick to the core to think that somebody was watching us and our daughter and had targeted her. And
is it me, or does he seem like he's actually getting off on this? Listen to him. You can almost hear him getting aroused by it. Listen to the way he's saying it.
A window of opportunity to snatch a child. And I've no doubt that Madeleine was targeted.
A child. It's your fucking daughter. You should be angry. You should be upset. Sorry for swearing.
That makes us, sick to the core to think that somebody was watching us and our daughter and had targeted her.
He's turned on by this.
And I think the true word is, a predator.
So this is the front door of the apartment, and of course you've got it straight onto the street. So you're straight over the wall onto the street, or straight out there onto the street.
Painfully, for some, the more the couple disclose about how insecure the flat was, the less wise their decision appears to leave the children unattended.
Well, I have to say that I'm surprised that Kate and Jerry left their children at all. And I've thought about it a lot because they're such caring parents. And I think, why?
Clearly, at the time, we felt what we were doing was quite responsible. If we were going to be dining further away or round the corner, we would never have left the kids. And with hindsight, everything with hindsight, it's all taken in the context of your child being abducted. And if we could turn back the clock and that, it would be, we just rewind as fast as we could, completely.
I mean, there isn't a day that goes by that I'm not kind of thinking to myself, why did I think that was okay? Was I wrong in thinking that was okay? And, I know, I mean, all I can say to myself is I know how much I love my children. I know I'm a responsible parent, and I know that, and I've just got to keep...
What? Again, she's just talking like Madeleine's gone, dead, in the past, done. I know that. I'm a good parent. No, you're not a good parent at all. You're shocking. You are a terrible, terrible person. And again, if this was an accident, you would be still full of remorse. You would end up blagging in the end. You couldn't help it. If that was done on purpose by a loving parent, there's no way you could be this cold. And if she was abducted, you would be hysterical, which leaves me to my original conclusion. These are a pair of sociopaths who may or may not be involved in some really dodgy shit with kids. But I do believe that they know exactly where the child was and why was the blood all over her. I think this accidental killing, the thing is, you would think that they would rather go with that than the other, which denying the whole thing says that there's something really bad here.
I keep saying that to myself, really, and
One possibility, and it's no more than that, is that police suspect some of the group of friends may have exaggerated the extent of their checks to make them and the McCanns appear more responsible.
Yeah.
If true, it could have inadvertently raised suspicions of something much worse.
They said that every half an hour they would go and look in on the children, and all of them, we found in everybody's statement, some questions that suggest that actually they didn't go and see the children.
It's not about us, you know. We were bobbing back and forward several times an hour to see the kids. So,
Bobbing back and forward.
You know, it's not about us. You know, I think that the problem is it's this predator, basically, who's been watching us, which gives you the shivers anyway, and broken into the apartment and taken Madeleine.
How could he break in when the door was left unlocked and open, you spaz? I'm getting really annoyed now. Sorry, guys. I just want to punch my laptop because of her face. I hope I never see her. I really hope I never see this woman in real life.
So, 200 days on, where is the search for Madeleine McCann now?
Poor little
Well, the
girl.
two camps are preparing for the next stage.
More money.
Though we have been briefed by the Portuguese police, they can't speak on television about their view of this case. It's the same for the McCanns, but they have a substantial team working with them.
Yeah,
in
they
the
do.
last week, they have authorised cooperation with
Here we
this
go.
programme.
They're home now.
Briefings, that interview with Jane Tanner, a chance to push their view that Kate and Jerry McCann are innocent.
Part of the reason why we're here disclosing evidence to you today, as opposed to keeping our
Have
powder
a little
dry,
Google of this bloke.
is a recognition that there were
Edward
two strands to this
Smith.
case. Part of it is
Was
the
it
criminal case.
Smeghurst? Edward what? Let's have a little look into you, shall we?
Briefings, that interview with Jane Tanner, a chance to push their view that Kate and Jerry McCann are
Oh, the
innocent.
hedgehogs, guys.
Part of the reason why we're here disclosing evidence to you today,
Smethurst. It
as
sounds
opposed to
like a
keeping our powder dry,
Smeghurst.
is a recognition that there were two strands to this case. Part of it is the criminal case, but part of it is the media speculation and the media perception. And we
Oh
see
my
it is
God.
incumbent upon us to portray the truth to the media.
Lawyer who represented the McCanns wants to turn his local village pub into a nursery. Oh, look where he's from. Rochdale. Oh, man. So he owns the pub. He's the one that helped them win over $500,000 from the Express. Mr. Smeghurst, I call him, owns a number of nurseries in the area, including Little Sparks in Wardle. This is from 2020, by the way, I'm reading. Bamford currently has no private provision and no nurseries available during holidays. So he buys up, he's got money, buys properties, turns them into nurseries. Why would a grown man, a lawyer, want to buy properties and turn them into bloody nurseries? Oh. They want to put new safeguarding and security. Oh, man. This guy, man. Another one screaming at me, hard drive check.
The media, and in particular, to try and expunge any ill-founded theories about Jerry and Kate's involvement so that the media attention can focus back onto the abduction and therefore onto the fact that we have a missing little girl out there.
The police say they are keeping an open mind about this, but will ask to re-interview the McCann's friends again. The delay, we're told, is down to bureaucracy.
Won't interview them.
Let's say it's important for all the people who were at the Ocean Club in the group, friends of the McCanns, including the McCanns, to tell us exactly everything that happened, everything they remember.
We've got nothing to hide. We just said what happened, and I don't understand how they can say that doesn't add up, because we've just said what happened on the night.
And that has been widely reported now, but also throughout, this idea that you want to go back and change your story.
It's just complete lies. I mean, I don't know where these stories come from. We've never been in contact with the police to say we want to change our story.
So you said you're prepared to answer questions.
Yeah.
In some ways, would you like to?
I'd love to. Yeah, I think I actively want to be re-interviewed. If there is a feeling that what we're saying is wrong, I'll be interviewed. But and we can clarify that.
Why is she smiling?
It's not wrong. We're not
the hamster
making
due
things
any
up. It's
second,
just what
guys. I've got to
happened.
go.
Have you been ever asked to return to be questioned?
No.
Would you be prepared?
Lies.
Yeah, of course we would.
Yes, she
yeah,
has.
I mean, if it helps to find Madeleine, be interviewed tomorrow. We
Hi,
are key
Catherine. Is
witnesses.
that Catherine or Catherine? Catherine.
The McCann camp say they continue to cooperate with the police, but they're doing more than that.
Hi,
If there is
Agnes.
to be a breakthrough, it may well come through this office, the M3 Detective Agency in Barcelona. It runs this phone number for sightings and information from the public. As part of the McCann's cooperation with this film, they've revealed to us what they believe is a new lead.
Maddie was alive 2 days after the kidnapping. Madeleine was in a car and she was given to another person inside Portugal. We have the description of the woman and the man involved.
We have seen no proof that this is a genuine development.
It's making
but
stuff
they're
up.
confident of this evidence and say it's been passed to the
Where is it
Portuguese
then?
police.
I'm not saying we are maybe, no. We are very, very close to find the kidnapper.
Yes. Newsflash, it's been 18 years.
Do you beat yourself up on this? Is it something you play with in your head? Or?
I do, and I mean, initially I did more, but I just have to think, it's the least thing you'd ever think in a million years that, a child is going to be abducted in a safe family resort.
Exactly.
As I said before, Jerry was
Wouldn't
standing
happen.
outside the apartment, so I thought Madeleine had just been checked. So there's absolutely no reason why I would think
Why are you laughing?
it was odd. There's no reason why I would think it was Madeleine being taken at that point.
More than 6 months on, and there is still only one real fact, and that is Madeleine McCann disappeared on the night of May the 3rd, 2007, and has not been seen since. Now, potentially, the month ahead is crucial. Barring any other developments, the forensic evidence may force the police here in Portugal to decide once and for all if the McCanns are to face any charges. If they do, then they'll have the chance to clear their name. If they don't, then Kate and Jerry McCann could face the rest of their life without their daughter, but with the suspicion that they were involved in her disappearance. Coming soon on Panorama, the
Right,
battle for...
got to get rid of that. I've got to run just quickly before we go. Look at this. The hamsters are due any second, folks, as you know. Spiky hamsters, Al calls them. He calls them that much that now I'm calling them. This is that guy, that Edward Smeghurst, I call him, yeah? Now, this was 2020, so this was like 13 years after that. Look, lawyer who represented the McCann parents wants to turn village pub into a nursery. An application to change the use of the Banford Arms has been made by owner Smeghurst, right? Children's Day Nursery. He's the lawyer that helped him get over $500,000, so he made a lot of money off that himself. He owns a number of nurseries in the area. Why? We need to, I'm going to do some deep diving into this, folks. But currently has no private provision and no nurseries available. What does that mean? No private provision. What does that mean? Anyone know? What does that mean? Hi, Agnes. Oh, man. He wants to cater for more than 50 babies, toddlers and preschoolers. I feel sick. First thing I seen was that when I Googled his name. There he is now, look. If you're a rich person, right? If you're a rich businessman and you want to buy buildings and buy property, why would you go into nurseries? Do you not think that's a little bit of a strange thing for a lawyer? Nanny says there's mega money in nursery care. Something screams. They don't, guys, they trust me, they use it as I'll tell you a really quick story, and I mean really quick. Can you let me know if you see Homer? We call him Homer because he comes from, sorry, not on the same page here, Christian B. Nah, he's got absolutely nothing to do with it, and he does have anything to do with it. He was helping the McCanns and Murat by moving the body. It's just another, when you listen to the next podcast, Detective Amaral actually came out and said the year before they tried to pin it onto that German, he actually said, and I've got the podcast, you watch, in the next year or so, they're going to wheel out a German paedophile to try and throw the case. And a year later it happened. I'm going to prove it to you because I'm going to play you the podcast from 2019. The year before he was mentioned. He knew what they were doing. That Detective Amaral, he knows what he's talking about, yeah? He knows what he's talking about. But really quickly, where I used to live, there was a nursery in Birmingham, and I can't remember its name now. And one of the people that worked there got caught being a PDF file. Now, my ex-in-laws run that place. Ex-in-laws. And they apparently knew the lad from when he was younger, and they knew his mum, and they thought he was lovely. He was DBS checked. DBS check means nothing. There's different levels of it. Yeah. It was DBS checked and everything. I'll never forget when I got the phone call when I was at work, because I lived not far from the nursery, saying that they'd all been pulled in and that this guy was caught doing it in a nursery with doing this. I can't even talk about what he was doing. And he was only, in his early 20s. And they found his hard drive by mistake. The police raided his house, his flat, for cannabis, because he was growing cannabis. And when they took away his hard drives, they found it all. And I remember they shut it down, and they said the in-laws, ex-in-laws at the time, they were distraught, saying that they knew the lad and he can't be guilty. He was guilty. He was done for it. So apparently I've heard that it happens a lot in nurseries, and it's just horrendous to think about. But there you go. It does happen in nurseries. I'm not saying look, I'm just telling you, I get a creepy feeling from the guy, yeah? I can't help it. Yeah, DBS check. When I worked in cybersecurity, my check was, you can't get any higher. It was a full clearance. I'll tell you, I've got the paperwork somewhere. I had a full clearance from security to work in government projects. They even they even looked at my parents, whether my parents had been abroad in the last 10 years, and if they'd been anywhere outside of Europe, any Muslim countries, I couldn't have worked there. It was mad. They go into your absolute whole life. And I had one of them checks done when I worked in cybersecurity. That's a proper check. A DBS check is just looking at your record. Many of these pedos, Jimmy Savile would have passed a DBS check because he wasn't done for anything. So when people go, oh, I've got a DBS check, it don't mean nothing. It just means you haven't been caught yet, you know? Anyway, George, I'm coming now. So I'm going to go and sort Homer out. Hopefully he'll let me feed him by hand again. We call him Homer because he's the first one here, and he pops his head out the hedge. And when he sees Gizmo and George, he pops back in again, like, you know, the way Homer pops out the hedge and back in again. Anyway, thank you for being here, guys. That person who came in with an alternative view is very welcome to come in and have another view. But genuinely, do you work with the McCanns? Because we are going to get that now. We are going to get bots and people coming in. I'm not saying that you are one of them, but we are going to get that now because we're getting more and more deeper into this. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Be a roundup of the news, I think, and any weird stuff. Thank you. Hi, Devon. How you doing? I forgot to say hello. I just about caught you there. Everyday life. No, I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying that we are expecting that. But the thing is, if this guy's involved, the whole story is so ropey. Look at Sonia Poulton. Just look at things. Forget the mainstream media. Look at things without, thinking about what you're being told. Right, got to run. Hedgehogs are here. And I'll see you all next time. Take care. Lots of love. Bye.